Welcome to this video, the fourth in the series focusing on how to play the classical guitar using the FGC3 tuning. In the last video we looked at how we play chords with the right hand through strumming, splaying and plucking, and the 6 different string spans, namely the high, middle, low, upper, lower and whole breadth string spans. We also learnt the 3 chromatic chord scales for the high span under neck, major tonic first inversion and second inversion chords. In this video we will briefly revisit playing the chords with the right hand and introduce the additional techniques of skimming and down skimming. In addition, we will extend the high span major chord, first and second inversion chromatic chord scales to include open string chords and over neck chords. We will also learn the 3 different chromatic chord scales for the minor tonic, first inversion and second inversion chords in the top span. So first of all, this diagram here shows the chords to be strummed, splayed and plucked. We have already discussed how chords that are strummed, splayed and plucked are played and notated. I will just play these chords from here to here, just to remind ourselves of how these chords should sound. So first of all we start off with these 5 chords here, which are to be strummed, using the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th fingers, like this. And then we have this chord here, which is to be splayed, using the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers, like this. And then we have the same chord here, to be plucked, using the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers, like this. Over here for the last 10 chords in this diagram, 5 are to be skimmed and the last 5 are to be down skimmed. So these 5 are to be skimmed and these 5 are to be down skimmed. Skimming is where we play the chords with one finger, similar to strumming, the difference being that with skimming we are not trying to achieve an arpeggiated effect. Instead we are just trying to sound all the notes of the chord all at the same time, but with just one finger. So we can think of skimming as plucking with just one finger for all the notes of the chord, instead of a different finger for each note. So when we skim, the finger can either move across the strings in an upward direction from lower strings to higher strings, or from a downward direction from the higher strings to the lower strings. This mark here is what we call a downstroke mark, so this indicates that the chord is to be skimmed in a downward fashion, like this. So if there is no mark above the chords, like in this chord here, then that defaults to an upward skim, like this. And I'll just play that again. So I'll just play these last 10 chords here, so that we can hear what they sound like. So first of all, these 5 chords here are to be skimmed using the fingers, first of all with the thumb, and then after that the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and then the 5th finger. So I'll just do those 5 chords now. So this is the skim, the upward skim, using the thumb, like that. And then using the 2nd finger, the index finger, and then using the 3rd finger, the middle finger, and then the 4th, which is the ring finger, and then the 5th, which is the little finger. So those were the upward skim, and so with these last 5 chords, with the downstroke mark, which is that mark there, we'll do them downwards. Okay, so that's the thumb, the finger number 1, you're doing a downward skim like that. And then after that, finger number 2, the index finger, and then number 3, the middle finger, and then number 4, the ring finger, and then number 5, the little finger. Okay, so I'll now play all the 17 chords in a diagram so that we can compare the sound differences between strumming, splaying, plucking, skimming and down skimming. So we'll start from the beginning and from there and play from left to right. Next, let us talk about the high-span major open strings. In this diagram, these 3 chords are the 3 open string chords from the high-span major chords. This first chord is the major tonic open string chord, which is that of C sharp major. The fingering, as you can see here, it's B5, A, B4, B3. So in the top string, B5 represents the 5th finger on fret B, which is like that. The next fingering consists of the letter A without any fingering number after it. This means that fret A is to be sounded on the 2nd string without any finger holding it down. So that's the top string, fret B, and that is fret A. After that, on the 3rd string, the fingering is B4, which means fret B is to be held down by the 4th finger. And after that, on the 4th string, B3 means that fret B is to be held down by the 3rd finger, like this. The numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4 next to the chord represents the right hand fingers, the thumb, index, middle and ring fingers, striking the relevant strings for the chord, namely the high-span top 4 strings. Because there is no vertical curly line, this indicates that the strings are to be plucked and not strummed. So this chord sounds like this, the first chord. And this chord, the second chord, is our second open string, high-span major chord. This is the first inversion chord of A major. This is because the C sharp, which is this one here, which is the major third of the scale of A major, forms the bottom note of the chord. Here the fingering is B5, B4, A, B3, which is like this. B5 on the top string, B4 on the 2nd, A on the 3rd, and B3 on the 4th. Remember, when we have the letter A without any fingering number after it, this indicates that it is the open string, fret A, that needs to be played without a finger holding down the string. This chord here is our 3rd open string high-span major chord. This is the second inversion chord of F major. This is because the C natural, which is the perfect 5th of the scale of F major, forms the bottom note of the chord. And here the fingering, it's A, B5, B4A, which is like this. So the top string is the A, which is the open string, and then the 2nd string is B5, and then the 3rd string is B4, and the 4th string it's A. So the chord sounds like this. So let us practice our 3 high-span major open string chords. Let us play them as written. As I play them, I'm reading the fingering notation above the stave and also below the stave, checking that all my fingers are playing the correct fret, using the correct fingers. I'm also listening to the chords and reminding myself which notes in the chord corresponds to which notes as written on the stave. So let's play the 3 chords. And the second chord goes like this. And the 3rd chord goes like this. Next, let's talk about the high-span over neck major chords. For this posture, because the thumb is over the fretboard and not under the neck to support the neck, we need the guitar strap in order to carry the weight of the guitar on the back to stop it sliding out of position. So when playing the over neck chords, we need to provide a firm support for the fingers by resting the base and edge of the left hand palm and wrist against the edge of the guitar or against the neck of the guitar, depending on the actual position of the fingers on the frets. So if we look at the first chord here, which reads O5, N2, O4, O3, generally speaking, any fingering that includes the letters O and N or above tells us immediately that this is a high fret and needs to be played over neck. So to play this chord, first of all, I rest the edge of my left palm against the side of the guitar, and then the first notes O5 tells me that I need to hold down the fret O with my little finger. So I've got this marker here on the guitar itself, which tells me that this is fret M, the 12th fret. So that's from there. I know that the next fret is N, and then after that, that's the O. Okay, so I hold my 5th finger on the fret O, and it sounds like that. The next note on the 2nd string is N2, which is fret N to be held down by the index finger, like that. And after that, on the 3rd string, O4, it's fret O again to be held down by the 4th finger, so it sounds like that. And after that, on the 4th string, O3, which is fret O again, is to be held down by the middle finger, so it sounds like that. Notice that this chord is the tonic chord of D major, because the bottom note is D, 1 octave above middle C. Notice at this stage that the finger formation of the overneck major tonic chord is the same fingering formation as the underneck major tonic chord. So I'll just play that again, and it sounds like this. And if you are playing a chord or an arpeggio, the bottom note is always played using the thumb, and the next note up is played using the next finger up, and so forth. And so on to the next chord, which is this one here, which is the tonic chord of E flat major, with a fingering P5, O2, P4, P3. So basically it's the same fingering formation, shifted 1 fret up, so it sounds like this. Remember the importance of resting the base of the left palm or the wrist against the side of the guitar, so as to provide a stable base from which to hold down the strings with the fingers. Next we have the overneck top span major tonic chord of E major, with a fingering Q5, P2, Q4, Q3. So it's 1 fret upwards, and it sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major tonic chord of F major, with the fingering R5, Q2, R3, R3. So it's onto the R fret. Next we have the overneck top span major tonic chord of F sharp major, with a fingering S5, R2, S4, S3. So it's 1 fret up. Next we have the overneck top span major tonic chord of G major, with a fingering T5, S2, T4, T3. So those are the 6 overneck major tonic chords for the top span strings. Let us now move on to the overneck major first inversion chords for the top span strings. So once again, I'm securely resting the left palm onto the side of the guitar in order to secure the position of the hand, and then for the first chord I need to hold the strings using the fingering O5, O4, N2, O3. So that is O5, O4, N2, O3, and therefore it sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major first inversion chord of B major, with a fingering P5, P4, O2, P3. So that is just shifted 1 fret upwards, therefore it sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major first inversion chord of C major, with a fingering Q5, Q4, P2, Q3. And so once again that's just 1 fret shifted upwards, and it sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major first inversion chord of C sharp major, with a fingering R5, R4, Q2, R3. So that sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major first inversion chord of D major, with a fingering S5, S4, R2, S3. So it sounds like this. And finally we have the overneck top span major first inversion chord of E flat major, with a fingering T5, T4, S2, T3. And therefore it sounds like this. So those are the 6 overneck major first inversion chords for the top span strings. Let's now move on to the overneck major second inversion chords for the top span strings. This time, because of the angle of the fingering posture, we do not rest the palm against the side of the guitar, but we need to rest the base of the thumb against the neck of the guitar like this. So for the first chord, which is the top span major second inversion chord of F sharp major with a fingering 5N, 04, 03, N2, it sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major second inversion chord of G major with a fingering 05, P4, P3, 02, which sounds like this. Next we have the overneck top span major second inversion chord of A flat major with a fingering P5, Q4, Q3, P2, which sounds like this. After that we have the overneck top span major second inversion chord of A major with a fingering Q5, R4, R3, Q2, which sounds like this. And then we have the overneck top span major second inversion chord of B flat major with a fingering R5, S4, S3, R2, which sounds like this. And finally, at the very end, we have the overneck top span major second inversion chord of B major with a fingering S5, T4, T3, S2, and it sounds like this. Let us now move on to the overneck minor tonic chords for the top span strings. Here with the first chord starting at 05, N1, N2, 03, which is the D minor tonic chord, we need to press in the palm of the hand against the side of the guitar. This will allow us to hold down the strings securely. And note that it's 05 for the top string and N1 for the second string, which means that we are using the thumb this time to hold the string down. So 05, N1, N2, 03 sounds like this. And then the second chord is P5, 01, 02, P3, which sounds like this. And then the third chord is Q5, P1, P2, Q3, which sounds like this. And the fourth chord is R5, Q1, Q2, R3, which sounds like this. And the fifth chord, it's S5, R1, R2, S3, which sounds like this. And the last chord, it's T5, S1, S2, T3, which sounds like this. Let us now move on to the overneck major first inversion chords for the top span strings. Here with the first chord starting at N5, 04, N3, N2, which is the B flat minor first inversion chord, we need to press in the base of the thumb down onto the fretboard in order to gain a secure left hand position. One shouldn't be afraid to press down directly onto the strings, because with the strings being held down at the higher frets, it does not affect the sound in any way. So let's start with the first chord, which is the N5, 04, N3, N2. So that's just N5, 04, N3, and N2, and it sounds like this. And then the second chord, it's 05, P4, 03, 02, and it sounds like this. And the third chord, P5, Q4, P3, P2, which sounds like this. And the fourth chord, Q5, R4, Q3, Q2, which sounds like this. And the fifth chord, R5, S4, R3, R2, which sounds like this. And the last chord, S5, T4, S3, S2, which sounds like this. Let us now move on to the overneck major second inversion chord for the top span strings. Here with the first chord starting at N5, 04, N3, N2, which is the B flat minor second inversion chord. Once again we need to press the base of the thumb down onto the fretboard in order to gain a secure left hand position. And once again one shouldn't be afraid to press down directly onto the strings, because with the strings being held down at the higher frets, it does not affect the sound. So let's start with the first chord, N5, N4, 03, N2, therefore it sounds like this. and the second chord, which is O5, O4, P3, O2, which sounds like this, and the third chord, P5, P4, Q3, P2, which sounds like this, and the fourth chord, Q5, Q4, R3, Q2, which sounds like this, and the fifth chord, R5, R4, S3, R2, which sounds like this, and the last chord, S5, S4, T3, S2, which sounds like this. This diagram shows the three chromatic chord scales for the top span major chords. These chord scales contain the chords that we have already learnt in this video, so we'll just practice them again. The purpose of practicing these chromatic chord scales is threefold. Firstly, to learn the fingering for the harmonies in these chord scales, so that if we want to play a particular harmony at a particular inversion and at a particular pitch range, whether it's tenor, alto or soprano, we know exactly where to locate them on the fretboard. Secondly, to learn the musical notation for these chord scales, so that when we sight read music written for other instruments, such as the piano or violin, we know exactly how to play the music on the FGC3 tuning guitar. And thirdly, we want to achieve the most pleasing sound that we can when playing these chord scales by holding down the strings correctly, making sure that there are no buzzing and other noises. So to achieve these three objectives, we need to carefully read the fingering notation, the musical notation on the stave, and also listen carefully to the sound that we create, always striving to create a sound as pleasing as possible, at a playing speed as fast as possible. So let us play the first chromatic chord scale at the top, which is the chromatic chord scale of the major tonic. So here we go. So the first chord, which is B5, A, B4, B3, which is the tonic chord of C sharp major, sounds like this. And the second chord, which is C5, B2, C4, C3, which is the tonic chord of D major, sounds like this. And the third chord, which is D5, C2, D4, D3, which is the tonic chord of E flat major, sounds like this. And then the fourth chord, E5, D2, E4, E3, which is the tonic chord of E major, sounds like this. And then after that, F5, E2, F4, F3, the tonic chord of F major, sounds like this. And then G5, F2, G4, G3, the tonic chord of F sharp major, sounds like this. And then H5, G2, H4, H3, the tonic chord of G major, sounds like this. And then I5, H2, I4, I3, the tonic chord of A flat major, sounds like this. And then J5, I2, J4, J3, the tonic chord of A major, sounds like this. And then K5, J2, K4, K3, the tonic chord of B flat major, sounds like this. And then L5, K2, L4, L3, the tonic chord of B major, sounds like this. And then M5, L2, M4, M3, the tonic chord of C major, sounds like this. And then after that, N5, M2, N4, N3, the tonic chord of C sharp major, sounds like this. And then after that, for the O5, N2, O4, O3, because there is an O, we do know that normally we need to play that over the neck. So for that, the thumb goes over the neck like that, and I'll just play that like this. And then after that, P5, O2, P4, P3, which is the tonic chord of E flat major, sounds like this. And then after that, Q5, P2, Q4, Q3, the tonic chord of E major, sounds like this. And then R5, Q2, R4, R3, the tonic chord of F major, sounds like this. And then after that, S5, R2, S4, S3, the tonic chord of F sharp major sounds like this. And then finally, T5, S2, T4, T3, the tonic chord of G major sounds like this. So those were the top span major tonic chords. So let's move on to the top span major first inversion chords, which is shown on the second stave. So let's start off with the first chord, B5, B4, A, B3, which is the first inversion of A major. After that, C5, C4, B2, C3, the first inversion of B flat major. Then D5, D4, C2, D3, the first inversion of B major. Then E5, E4, D2, E3, the first inversion of C major. Then F5, F4, E2, F3, the first inversion of C sharp major. G5, G4, F2, G3, the first inversion of D major. H5, H4, G2, H3, the first inversion of E flat major. I5, I4, H2, I3, the first inversion of E major. J5, J4, I2, J3, the first inversion of F major. K5, K4, J2, K3, the first inversion of F sharp major. L5, L4, K2, L3, the first inversion of G major. M5, M4, L2, M3, the first inversion of A flat major. N5, N4, M2, N3, the first inversion of A major again. And then after that, we go over neck for the O5, O4, N2, O3, the first inversion of B flat major. And then P5, P4, O2, P3, the first inversion of B major. Q5, Q4, P2, Q3, the first inversion of C major. R5, R4, Q2, R3, the first inversion of C sharp major. S5, S4, R2, S3, the first inversion of D major. T5, T4, S2, T3, the first inversion of E flat major. So those were the top span major first inversion chords. So let's now move on to the third stave, which is the top span major second inversion chords. So the first chord, A, B3, B2A, the second inversion of F major sounds like this. The second chord, B3, C5, C4, B2, the second inversion of F sharp major sounds like this. C3, D5, D4, C3, the second inversion of G major sounds like this. D3, E5, E4, D2, the second inversion of A flat major. E3, F5, F4, E2, the second inversion of A major. F3, G5, G4, F2, the second inversion of B flat major. G3, H5, H4, G2, the second inversion of B major. H3, I5, I4, H2, the second inversion of C major. I3, J5, J4, I2, the second inversion of C sharp major. J3, K5, K4, J2, the second inversion of D major. K3, L5, L4, K2, the second inversion of E flat major. L3, M5, M4, L2, the second inversion of E major. M3, N5, N4, the second inversion of F major. Okay, and then after that we go over neck for N5, O4, O3, N2. Note that with this over neck chord, the fingering is slightly different from the under neck chord. So that is N5, O4, O3, N2, which sounds like this. And then O5, P4, P3, O2, the second inversion of G major, and then P5, Q4, Q3, P2, the second inversion of A flat major, Q5, R4, R3, Q2, the second inversion of A major, R5, S4, S3, R2, the second inversion of B flat major, S5, T4, T3, S2, the second inversion of B major. Next, let us move on to the minor chords. This diagram shows the 3 chromatic chord scales for the top span minor chords. Let us play the first chromatic chord scale at the top, which is the chromatic chord scale of the minor tonic. So here we go. So once again, the very first chord is the open string chord, B3, A, B2, which sounds like this, which is the tonic chord of C sharp minor, which sounds like this. And the second chord, the first underneck chord, C5, B3, B2, C4, which is the tonic chord of D minor, D5, C3, C2, D4, the tonic chord of E flat minor, E5, D3, D2, E4, tonic chord of E minor, F5, E3, E2, F4, tonic chord of F minor, G5, F3, F2, G4, tonic chord of F sharp minor, H5, G3, G2, H4, tonic chord of G minor, I5, H3, H2, I4, tonic chord of A flat minor, J5, I3, I2, J4, tonic chord of A minor, K5, J3, J2, K4, tonic chord of B flat minor, L5, K3, K2, L4, tonic chord of B minor, M5, L3, L2, M4, tonic chord of C minor, N5, M3, M2, N4, tonic chord of C sharp minor, and then after that we go over neck for O5, N1, N2, O3, which sounds like this, and then P5, O1, O2, P3, which sounds like this, and then Q5, P1, P2, Q3, which is the tonic chord of E minor, and then R5, Q1, Q2, R3, the tonic chord of F minor, S5, R1, R2, S3, the tonic chord of F sharp minor, T5, S1, S2, T3, the tonic chord of G minor. So those were the top span minor tonic inversion chords. So let's move on to the second stave, the top span minor first inversion chords. So let's start at the first chord, A, B3, A, which is the first inversion of A minor, which sounds like this. The second chord, B3, C4, B2, and B2, which is the first inversion chord of B flat minor. And then third chord, C3, D4, C2, C2, the first inversion of B minor. D3, E4, D2, D2, the first inversion of C minor. E3, F4, E2, E2, the first inversion of C sharp minor. F3, G4, F2, F2, the first inversion of D minor. G3, H4, G2, G2, the first inversion of E flat minor. H1, I4, H2, H2, the first inversion of E minor. I3, J4, I2, I2, the first inversion of F minor. J3, K4, J2, J2, the first inversion of F sharp minor. K3, L4, K2, K2, the first inversion of G minor. L3, M4, L2, L2, the first inversion of A flat minor. M3, M4, M2, M2, the first inversion of A minor. And then after that, we need to go over neck for N5, O4, N3, N2, which is the first inversion of B minor. O5, P4, O3, O2, the first inversion of B minor. P5, Q4, P3, P2, the first inversion of C minor. Q5, R4, Q3, Q2, the first inversion of C sharp minor. R5, S4, R3, R2, the first inversion of D minor. And finally, S5, T4, S3, S2, the first inversion of E flat minor. So those were the top span minor first inversion chords. So let's move on to the bottom stave there, which are the top span minor second inversion chords. So let's start off with the first chord, AA, B2A, which is the second inversion of F minor. And then B3, B4, C5, B2, the second inversion of F sharp minor. C3, C4, D5, C2, the second inversion of G minor. D3, D4, E5, D2, the second inversion of A flat minor. E3, E4, F5, E2, the second inversion of A minor. F3, F4, G5, F2, the second inversion of B flat minor. G3, G4, H5, G2, the second inversion of B minor. H3, H4, I5, H2, the second inversion of C minor. I3, I4, J5, I2, the second inversion of C sharp minor. J3, J4, K5, J2, the second inversion of D minor. K3, K4, L5, K2, the second inversion of E flat minor. L3, L4, M5, L2, the second inversion of E minor. M3, M4, N5, M2, the second inversion of F minor. And then after that, we go over neck and the fingering changes slightly to N5, N4, O3, N2, which is the second inversion of F sharp minor. And then after that, O5, O4, P3, O2, the second inversion of G minor. And then P5, P4, Q3, P2, the second inversion of A flat minor. And then Q5, Q3, R3, Q2, the second inversion of A minor. And then R5, R4, S3, R2, the second inversion of B flat minor. And finally, S5, S4, T3, S2, the second inversion of B minor. Well, that brings us to the end of this fourth video. In this video, we've looked at how we play the high span, major and minor chromatic chord scales for the open string, under neck and over neck chords. In the next video, we will cover the high span, diminished thirds and dominant sevenths chromatic chord scales for the open string, under neck and over neck chords. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope to see you in the next video. In the meantime, take care.